Small town. Damn, that's you strictly. Small town. Damn, that's you strictly.
Ladies and gentlemen, this just in. Aaron Rodgers gets his best friend back. Josh Allen gets a new friend. The Mets steal game 2 in the NLCS, and we are back to give you the real in sports. I'm your co-host, Small Town AP, live from Atlanta, joined by Wade Julian, live from New York City. And you are now tuned into your number one sports talk show on the All Things Sports Network, brought to you by Small Town Productions. Ticker up top, brought to you by ESPN Bet. June, great to see you. Let's get right into it.
Yes, sir.
Ooh, Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams on his way to New York City, reunited with Aaron Rodgers. This deal gives the Raiders a conditional third round pick that becomes a second round pick based on performance. If Adams makes first or second team All Pro, or he's on the active roster for an AFC Championship team or a Super Bowl team, it turns into a second round pick. How much better did the Jets just get?
I mean, it's pretty simple. They added an all pro level, you know, wide receiver, a number one. And it's not something that they were in dire need for, but it's something that's definitely helped them. So to say how much they got better, I don't have the exact answer for that. I think that Devonte Adams alleviates a lot of the issues that they're having internally, like the frustration that Aaron Rodgers is going through with new receivers and the timing and things like that. I think that he's going to lift spirits and energy in that building because of the simple fact that what his track record is, what he's done with Aaron Rodgers in the past, and so the morale has to, I'm sure be at least a little high with a guy like him coming in the building. But as far as like how much better are the Jets today, I don't say that they're much better. I think that their issues rely or are way past their wide receiver room. This is a wide receiver room. We're talking with Garrett Wilson, standout second year player. Um, Alan Lazard coming from Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers. You got Mike Williams, who came from Los Angeles and earned a contract. I mean, the room is pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
You're obviously adding this talent here, a one of one, somebody who's your quarterback's best friend. So we're gonna see a major upgrade to the offense. We're gonna see a lot of things open up, I'm sure, for Garrett Wilson, and Brees Hall. I think they'll be the beneficiaries of that. But man, this team lacks discipline. This team lacks the ability to stop the run. And so when you give up, 100 yards on penalties and you give up over 120 in the rushing game, you're probably not going to win that game. And so Devontae Adams has nothing to do with stopping the run. Devontae Adams isn't going to, cause you all those penalties. This is something that starts at the top and also missing field goals. The fact that they still have the same kicker that they did last night, Greg the Leg, Greg Zerloin, it
Yep.
kind of bothers me and it upsets me because with the firing of Coach Robert Saleh, I felt like whether it was necessary or not, it's something that happened, and the Jets were in a position where they felt they needed to move forward. Ulbrich comes in and as defensive coordinator is the interim coach. He says great things at the press conference. They almost come out and win the first game for him,
Yeah.
but I mean, costly penalties and your kicker cost you the game. I would have liked to see Monday morning, or excuse me, Tuesday morning, which was today, game the day after, you take your loss, you cut the kicker. You cut the kicker. I mean, there's no reason an NFL kicker should lose you a game based on 30-yard field goals. And if the Jets are going to walk around with that problem, and I want to make that clear, that is a problem. If they're going to walk around with that problem and let that problem stay in the locker room, I mean, you got to look at it as something like a cold, that's contagious. Losing is contagious, winning is contagious. What kind of guys are you going to have in your locker room? And I'm not sitting here calling for someone's job as if he's a horrible person or anything like that, but you got to get the job done. And if I was a Colts fan and this was the Colts, I'd be saying the same thing. I wouldn't understand it. I'm trying to get our defensive coordinator fired right now because we're not playing good defense. I mean, the kicker is missing game-winning opportunities once against the Broncos at home, yesterday on Monday Night Football against the Bills at home for a chance at first place, and you're just gone with the win. And so I would have liked to see some accountability there by Coach Ulbrich and him just letting the kicker go and finding someone else. That didn't happen. So it seems that they're just a bit content with the mishaps. They're going to let that linger around the building. And so the biggest thing I'm looking at before I watch Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers, I mean, it's going to be hard not to want to just pay attention to them, for the rest of the season. I am super happy to see that. But I'm going to be looking at how many penalties the Jets get on Sunday because they play primetime versus Steelers in Pittsburgh. It's going to be a
Yep.
tough crowd. It's going to be cold out. Coach is going to coach his ass off over there, Tomlin. Russell Wilson's getting a new start. Defense hasn't seen this year. How many penalties are we going to give up? And how many yards from these penalties are the Steelers going to benefit from to put them in a better chance to win because the Jets are so undisciplined? That's what I'm looking for Sunday. So just to kind of circle back, I know I went through the Jets and everything. You asked me specifically about Devontae Adams. He does make them a lot more exciting and probably explosive as an offense, but he doesn't make them amazing as a team. Their team has far too many issues to think that Devontae Adams was going to come in here and save the season.
Could they make it out of the AFC East? I mean, you got the Dolphins with a pending Tua return, and we're I guess if you are counting on Tua being healthy, right, per se, quote unquote healthy, then yeah, the Dolphins probably make it out of the East. But I personally can't count on Tua being healthy. And then you're in a division with New England, who we'll see what happens with Drake May and Buffalo's been winning the division for the last half decade or so. Could this bump the Jets up to that number 2 spot in the AFC East, you think?
Yeah, I mean, the Jets have a chance to do something really special. And this is the good thing about it. Like, as much as I can talk about the Jets and, tell you that they have these accountability issues, they have lack of discipline issues, they still have Aaron Rodgers as their quarterback, right? They still have now two all pro talent wide receivers. they still have the, if not the number one, the number two lockdown corner in the league on defense, and surrounding themselves with a great defense over there. So skill was never the issue for the Jets. There's just an issue internally that they have to figure out, and they're hoping that Coach Obert can be the guy to lead them to the victory, or to the figuring out of what it is, root of the problem, so that they can get past it. They have a favorable schedule. It's not necessarily the easiest, but it ain't too tough. And they can go here and win a good stretch of 6, 7, 8 games within the next 12. And yeah, we could see them as the last man standing in this division. And so it wouldn't be the most surprising, because I'll say it again, skill was never the issue. But realistically, do I think that this Jets team is going to be able to turn it around, figure it out, win the string of games, and put the team on their back essentially? It's not looking too good right now. Like, we're not looking at the Jets like the Cowboys, but we're not looking at the Jets like what we were thinking they would be when Aaron Rodgers first joined here.
Yeah, and I didn't like his press conference last night either. I mean,
Mm,
when you're the leader, regardless of what the truth is
mm,
and what a lie is, you kind of have to
mm,
take those chips on your shoulders. Take those proverbial punches on your chin. I don't want to hear you talking about we missed field goals and I threw it where the
mm,
route was supposed to go and homeboy wasn't there. It's
mm.
it's not a good look, but hey, you got your best friend in the morning, so we'll see how that turns out.
Real quick though, I mean, just on that, and I'm conflicted here because it is, I typically am on the side of, like, quarterback ownership. Don't throw your teammates under the bus. And I don't know. I mean, he technically threw Mike Williams under the bus, but I think, more so than anything, Aaron Rodgers. I mean, the Jets already have Aaron Rodgers, right? And they're already all in with this. This push for Devontae Adams is like the final chips of the all-in bag. Aaron Rodgers understands that it's make or break for his legacy, for his tenure here in New York. And they've got to win games no matter what. And no matter what, if he's healthy, he's going to be the quarterback and he's going to be in charge. So he's at a point right now where I guess a pawn, and I'm not saying this in a disrespectful way, maybe he's figuratively looking at it like Mike Williams is a pawn here, right? And
Mm.
listen, there has to be accountability. Why, if he's truly running the wrong route, why are we running the wrong route with a minute left in the game? You know what I'm saying? Like, we're not talking about, oh, there was a third down that the game is on the line and we got a shot and it's open, but the reason it can't get hit is because, one, I can't throw as good as I once did, which he also mentioned, and two, I mean, my guy's not even in the right place, right? I mean, we got kickers missing field goals that they hit in freshman year of college. It's kind of essentially a what the F is going on moment. That's kind
Yeah.
of how I feel about him. And so I don't know that that's like throwing it under the bus. It is, but maybe the Jets need that, because who's going to listen?
Hey, fair. We talked about Monday night. Well, we talked about the Jets who were involved in Monday Night Football, as we mentioned last night. They lose to the Bills, 23-20. By the way, the last three Jet losses, they outgained all of their opponents. So
Got
we'll
to
see if they
finish.
can turn some of those into dubs in these coming weeks. The Buffalo Bills, who won that game last night, also went out this morning and acquired Amani Cooper from the Cleveland Browns. They go and save Coop from the Browns. They
Man,
bring him over. They are receiving a 2025 sixth round draft pick with Cooper, while Cleveland is going to get a 2025 third round pick and a 2026 seventh rounder in return. How much does this open that Bills offense up, June?
I mean, much more than it was, throwing to Mac Hollins, because I wanted to ask the Jets what was going on last night. I feel like Mac Hollins was all over the field. Shout out to him. But yeah, I mean, we're looking at a wide receiver room with Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman, rookie. Uh, they got guys like uh, Curtis Samuel. and then Mac Hollins. They've now added Amari Cooper, and man, we're talking about a route running technician. We're talking about a guy who can win his one on ones. We're talking about a wide receiver, a true wide receiver one still, and to get him for a fifth round pick, conditionally sixth or so. I mean, that's a steal. That's got to be a big steal so far, and I think that this ultimately, looking back at it, pause can be the acquisition of the season. I think Derrick Henry is the free agent acquisition, of the offseason. But as far as midseason acquisitions, Devontae Adams to the Jets, it's the first thing that you want to say, and I'm looking at it too. Like, yeah, probably will be. However, speaking about the Jets and all the issues they have, if they can't come around to fix those things, the Bills are not playing horrible football. We know they started off really strong, struggled, took a 500 hit, and hey, they're back on the up and up, first in their division. Just got an offensive weapon for Josh Allen. James Cook coming back from injury. This can be a very dangerous thing. And I think that we could look at this in December like, wow, man, the Bills really, really did that one when they went and got Amari Cooper for Josh Allen. It could be all they need. They might need a little bit more. I like the trade. It's only a fifth. The Cowboys traded him for I'm sorry, they're getting a third, right? Was it? Apologies. You're muted. It's all good.
My fault. They're getting I have to pull it back up. Give me 1 second.
I was saying fifth. I think that Dallas traded him to Cleveland for a fifth, and now Cleveland's traded him to Buffalo and got a third for him, if I'm not mistaken. So I mean, shout out to Cleveland for getting a better deal for him than they got originally. But I mean, at a third, that's still a steal. For a team playoff contender like Buffalo, who has pieces already. I think this really bolsters up their offensive weaponry, and we're going to see Josh Allen in cahoots with his new friend as soon as this Sunday.
The Bills receive Cooper and a 2025 sixth round pick, while Cleveland gets a 2025 third round pick and a 2026 seventh rounder in return. With the exact logistics on that trade. A lot more football to get into, both college and football, but we are in the middle of the MLB playoffs, so I want to swing it over to the diamond, as they say. Whew. We have game 2 of the ALCS this evening in New York. Guardians, Yankees.
Yeah.
Yankees minus 175. I know it's a chilly night, about 50, mid 50s in New York right now. It's feeling good. Bring your light gooses out and light puffers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The styles were definitely going on at Yankee Stadium last night. Yankees were able to steal game 1. Once again, one of the key factors for me, Luke Weaver being able to come in and solidify these closes. Kid is a maniac on the mound. Game 2, we started Carlos Rodon. We Yankees started Carlos Rodon game 1. Game 2, we got Garrett Cole on the mound versus Tanner Bibby or Bibby. I'm sorry if I butchered that. June, Guardians, are they going to steal game 2 here, or is this going to get spooky?
Well, I think that the Yankees got this one. I mean, they should control their destiny at home. They should, not lose a playoff game to the Guardians at home. Garrett Cole starting game 2, I think this is crucial. Did you like the fact that they went with Cole game 2 and not 1?
I do. I think you know how I feel about Cole, man. As much of an ace as he is, he tends to give up a couple homers here and there, and I think that would have been a little rough if we got that Cole showing in game 1.
Yeah, and he is 1-0 here in the playoffs with a 3.0 ERA. He's given up a couple hits, 13 in the playoffs. My thing is, it's all on him. If he can command that fastball, and if he can be the Garrett Cole of last year's regular season, if he can be the Garrett Cole that they signed from Houston, I mean, there's no chance for the Guardians. But if Garrett Cole starts to leave those pitches out over the plate, at the short porch, Cleveland's got a lot of hitters, man, and they got some guys that can put it out the park. and it could get ugly quick. My guess is that he holds it down. I think Garrett Cole comes out and pitches a really good game tonight, and it ends up being like managerial decision of the series to have Garrett Cole start game two instead, and go up 2-0. Going up 2-0 is going to be huge for you guys here. Uh, Whereas the Mets or the Dodgers got to go on the road now and essentially steal back home field. So for the Yankees, it's going to be very important for them to win this game here, get some good pitching. And I mean, game one, this is what you guys wanted to see. You pay Stanton, you pay Judge, you pay Soto. You want to see those guys go yard back to back,
Mm-hmm.
or both of them in the same game, all three of them. So we got to see Soto and Stanton go yard yesterday, and essentially those two home runs kind of gave them the game. But again, Garrett Cole starting game two is going to be the talk of the series right here. And if he shuts it down, we're going to look at Boone like, man, you might have just punched your ticket into next season. But hey, if he goes down, Garrett Cole go down tonight. I mean, Boone's going down with him because shit.
Hey man, I'm this Cleveland line or this Yankee lineup versus Tanner are combined. The people that have seen them, which is five batters, are combined 4 for 11 career wise. Everyone's seen Cole a lot, especially his Cleveland Guardians team. They love to see Cole.
Yeah. Yeah.
Naylor especially. Their ongoing feud with Naylor rocking the baby a couple years ago. Jose Ramirez is 12 for 34 with 7 ribbies. Uh, He could hold it down. It could get spooky in the Bronx. 2 weeks early. I'm not 100% sure what is about to happen. Let's kick it over to the NLCS, June, where the Mets did steal game two in an
Hey.
impressive fashion, 7-3. I believe that it was something along the lines of like 6-0 after four, 6-1 after five. The Mets kind of dominated all the way through. They ended up winning 7-3. The series does change and travel over to Queens tomorrow. Dodgers, Mets, NLCS, City Field. We got Buter for Los Angeles. We got
Mm,
Severino for the Mets. The Mets are proven to not want to go away easy. And I know we said
yeah.
after game one, I texted you, I said, wow, the Dodgers are who they really are who we think they are. And the Mets came out game two and took care of business. Do you see the series getting a little closer than we had previously anticipated?
I think the series was gonna be a close series once I saw how those Mets responded, in that first round. Um, like you said, they don't want to go away. They want to stick around. They're tough. They're hot. They come out smoking some games. Takes them a little bit to start other games, and so I think the key is to get a big start on the Dodgers because that lineup there is hard to contain as we see with Otani, Betts, and those guys. But it seems like the Dodgers just have an ace pitcher for every game to throw out there. I mean,
For real.
Yamamoto, Bueller. They've got I forget their names, but I mean, it seems like every pitcher they've got is just an all star. And then you look at their lineup, and it's just one of those like, how does this team lose?
Yeah.
And so when I talk about the Dodgers and the Mets being a close series, I'll say the Mets can make it a close series in terms of not getting blown out, making games pretty good until they're not. Yesterday was a great example of how the Mets can beat you, and Francisco Lindor, another home run here in the postseason. He's their MVP right now. But I think that they're gonna go as far as he takes them, and I can't expect Lindor to pop off here for another home run or two and really really carry. And I hate to say that because he is a National League MVP
Yeah.
favorite. This guy has the talent to do it, but this Dodgers team is too talented and too much for me to think that based on him solely, the Mets are going to win the series. And that's not why they're doing good. I want to give credit, to the Mets in general. But Francisco Lindor is a big part of their wins. If you look at when they win, who plays well, it's equating that way. So Walker Bueller, to me, is going to go on the road in Queens on a chilly night tomorrow and put on a showcase. I think this is going to be a low scoring game. Both
Hmm.
uh,
Take the
and
under.
one of those tight, clinched up games. So real quick, if I can, I want to tap into the chat. Shout out to Kev, shout out to Lou, shout out to Dolph, Dub. Kev, we're talking about the Jets, man. You're not here. I mean, you want us to wait for you? Can't wait, bro. You got shit's happening now. But he said Garrett Cole closed out game 4 of the series, so it would have been too quick of a turnaround to start him in game 1. And it makes
Yeah.
total sense. But eh, Garrett Cole better pitch his ass off tonight. That's all I know.
Got to. Hey man, I want to kick it back over to football, college football to be exact. A lot of great football this week and a lot of exciting things
Oh
happen. I
yeah.
mean, Friday night we had Arizona State topple Utah at the crib. The bleachers was going crazy. Everybody was in the
Yeah.
field. The lights was going on and off. You know what I mean? We had the controversial, you know, I guess call play, whatever in the Oregon Ohio State game. A lot of teams hung around this weekend. USC hung around at home against Penn State.
Mm-hmm.
Alabama continues to, let people score on them. Tennessee go scoreless for half the game again. What were some of the standouts this weekend for you in college football?
Man, what a weekend of college football we had in week 7. We had Oregon number 2 versus number 3 Ohio State going at it. Texas rolled on the freshman quarterback in Oklahoma in the Red River rivalry. You mentioned USC, fighting and clawing, but Penn State was able to survive. They had their tight end who lined up at center, who snapped the ball, ran for a touchdown. I mean, he did it all. But there was a bunch more games that I was able to sit through and watch and just be appreciative. I wish I need to get Allie's number, or I gotta find a way for us to communicate back and forth, because Tennessee is on fraud alert. I've officially put Tennessee on fraud alert, and on that short list of fraud alert, it starts off it's in alphabetical order: Alabama, Tennessee. And so I need to see these guys face off in a game or something, so that we can see who's more fraud. Oh, wait, they play this weekend. Alabama, Tennessee. Going to be a great one. I'll talk about that in a second. But this past weekend, LSU, Ole Miss, SEC thriller. Lane Kiffin couldn't win in Death Valley. I mean, what a great game we had, great finish. Kansas State was able to run. DJ Giddens was able to run for over 120 yards over the Colorado Buffaloes. Shout out to Jalen, Colorado Buffaloes fan over there. He was telling me how this team's we might not lose a game all season. Listen, man, they not ready for real. They have a lot of players. They got a lot of talent. And guess what? Travis Hunter got hurt. It's unfortunate. Yeah. When your best player gets hurt and you don't got nothing to replace him with, you lose. And so he's going to be able to come back this week and he'll be healthy. So speedy recoveries to him. But he wasn't able to stop Kansas State University on a deep ball, game-winning 50-yard bomb at the end of the game. And, I just think that, Shador is more than enough for what they're trying to do offensively. He's going to go to the league and everything's going to be great. But Coach Prime has to figure out the run defense and the trenches out in Colorado, because they're not going to be able to continue to win if they can't stop the run.
And not to cut you off, but what's interesting about that is that last year around this time, I got a memory on my Instagram earlier where I posted something literally on October the 14th last year, and it was a picture of my dog looking like, yo, what is going on right now? And my caption said, Buffalo betters from last night. And it was the day after that double overtime game with Stanford.
Wow. That was a crazy one too. Excuse me.
Bless you.
And then, I was going to finalize with Ashton Jeanty, Heisman favorite probably at this point. I mean, running all through defenses all over the country. He faced his toughest defense. He usually averages about 11 per carry, which is unheard of. He only averaged 7 per carry. And if you were to tell me my running back was to only average 7 yards per carry, I mean, sign me up. he had 217 yards on 31 carries and a touchdown versus the Hawaii defense over there. It was a late night game that I was able to stay up and watch. I was just college footballed out, man. I was ready to, you know, see what the day was going to bring. And by the end of it, I was excited. Alabama, I want to go back to them. You know, number 7, Alabama, they go down from number 1 in the country. They lose to Vanderbilt. They go down to number 7. That's the biggest jump from or decline from one that we've seen, I think, in school in history of the top 25. But they think that this is a bounce back week against, a 3-2 South Carolina Gamecocks team with Lenore Sellers, true freshman quarterback. They think, we can bounce back. They lose they win a close game here, in a game where Alabama let up 132 yards on the ground. They let up almost 250 yards passing, and SC was able to find the end zone 3 times. The bigger problem I'm trying to figure out now. I mean, that defense is giving up, far too much right
Yeah,
now. And Alabama's going to have to figure out how to buckle down. But Jalen Milroe, I mean, 2 interceptions and a fumble,
acceptable.
unacceptable. I need to see him clean that up because he is a Heisman candidate. He was a Heisman favorite at one point, but it's not going to get done. And we don't even want to talk about Heisman right now. We got to talk about, staying in the top 10 and making sure Alabama and Kalen DeBoer's first season doesn't go to shit, because we look at their schedule, and I just mentioned, man, they're going to go to the Fraud City and play the Tennessee Volunteers. And Tennessee down to number 11 after a close win versus those Florida Gators. I mean, listen, the Gators, in my opinion, are putting a impressive resume together, right? They got routed and blown out and embarrassed at home in the swamp versus the Hurricanes opening week. And we thought that their season was over, which it is because of their schedule. But we thought Miami was just this good and Florida was just this bad. I mean, Florida's putting respectable competition on the field now, right? They lose Graham Mertz. DJ Lagway is going to have to go the rest of the way. It's unfortunate. They were trying to do a double quarterback system here and there. But, I mean, Nico is struggling. Nico is struggling to get the ball downfield and score touchdowns. Tennessee's offense is usually some firepower. I mean, it's not the running game. Dylan Sampson's amazing all season, and we can't blame him. But Tennessee's going to have to figure out how to get Nico more comfortable and settle in these games, because getting downfield and not scoring or not being able to even push the ball downfield at times, turning the ball over, it's looking a little sloppy. And we thought that we were going to get a little more out of Nico and those Volunteers this year. So I'm almost done here with college football, but I do want to highlight Penn State, man, and what they were able to do. They go on the road for the first, I think this is USC's first Big Ten home game, technically. They were able to
Yeah.
host Penn State. I know they were on the road in Minnesota last week, rude awakening. Lincoln Riley's defense couldn't stop a nosebleed, and Minnesota goes and beats them. I mean, they lose back-to-back weeks. They're at 3-3, but Penn State moved up to number 4. I think they moved up to number 3 in the rankings. And Tyler Warren. I mean, we got to talk about Tyler Warren. This guy is not going to get recognition for Heisman, but he has to have All-American in the Big Ten. He has to win tight end of the year because, man, oh, man, he is a beast among young men. So shout out to Penn State. The Hurricanes, we got Louisville coming up next week on Saturday, 12 o'clock game. Let's be excited and grateful they didn't give us another primetime game.
Yeah.
We stayed at number 6 in the poll. I agree, coming off of 2 close, questionable wins. Fuck questionable, we won. There's no question. But they were close wins nonetheless. And so, we have to get past that and earn the top 5 right of being able to beat a bad team in a good way. And I think we'll do that here with Louisville. Louisville is not a bad team by any means. Very good ACC competition right here with a good quarterback, Tyler Slough. But if I'm Miami and you seen what you just seen from the top five,
Yeah.
you got to put on a dominating performance because who knows? You might be ranked number three. You might be ranked number two when these teams start to face off. I just mentioned Georgia, or excuse me, I mentioned Alabama playing Tennessee. We also got Georgia versus Texas. Texas was able to roll through Oklahoma playing a freshman quarterback, but Quinn Ewers looked rusty. I mean, there were times we were talking in the group chat, yo, is Arch Manning going to come in? Because Arch Manning probably throw for 300 yards and run for another 70. But Quinn Ewers, he's got to get his feet under him. He's got to get his arm back. He threw an interception, was looking a little, balls were off, pause. Uh, but I think that he'll bounce back, and thankfully, he's playing against a suspected fraud, Tennessee. It's going to be it's going to be, in Happy Valley is what they call it. I forgot what they call it over there at Tennessee. Rocky Top, I think it's Rocky Top Mountain or whatever the fuck they call it over there. They got to win. And so this is not a must win for Tennessee. It's a must win for Alabama, and a really should go and get this one for Tennessee. So that's setting up to be great. Georgia, they come out, they win a close game versus Mississippi State team that they had no business being in the game with. I mean, they let them boys put up 31 points on them. I don't know what's going on in Georgia. Carson Beck had a good game, putting up 41 for the offense. But, I mean, Georgia letting up 31 to Mississippi State. We got to start talking about because Kirby Smart, Kalen DeBoer, you guys are the two powerhouse coaches of the SEC, and it's looking like the parity's getting to you. It's looking like college football is not as easy as it once was when NIL wasn't the biggest factor, when there wasn't a 12-team playoff with all this opportunity oozing during the season. So we're looking at that. The last thing I want to touch on before we go back to the NFL, Dan Lanning and the Oregon Ducks hold it down in Eugene. Pat McAfee, on College Game Day, picked them to win. I thought Ohio State was going to win this game. I thought Ohio State was better across the board than Oregon. And we saw Ohio State have some struggles here. And essentially they ran out of time at the end, which was crazy. But what led them to run out of time, hear this. Coach Dan Lanning found this loophole within the rule book, right? And let's say there's 12 seconds left. I think Ohio State is down 1 or 2, and they have the ball at the Oregon, let's call it 46 per se, right? 40, let's call it 40, Oregon 40. Still a tough field goal from where they're at. They would like another 5 to 10 yards to get their kicker within comfortable range. Only 12 seconds left. They call a timeout. Oregon calls a timeout, right? So now they get their players off. Everybody's back on the field. After the timeout, Oregon then throws a 12th defender on the field so that they can draw a penalty, which is only 5 yards for having 12 men on the field, and it'll be a redo it down. Once they throw the penalty, 6 seconds goes off that clock that they're not getting back, Ohio State. And so now they've accepted the penalty, moved a little closer, still uncomfortable field goal, range. They want to get a little closer with 6 seconds left and one timeout. Will Howard doesn't have the awareness that you would wish he had on that play if you're an Ohio State fan. And so what he tried to do was make a little too much happen. He calls the snap, runs the ball, finds open grass, and doesn't get down in time for Coach Ryan Day to call timeout, and the time essentially runs out on Ohio State for them to not even be able to win.
He's saying
this. Yeah. And so the loophole, man, Dan Lanning has found was essentially we can give up 5 yards to waste 5 to 10 seconds. And I think the 5 to 10 seconds were way more valuable to Ohio State at that point in time in the game than the 5 yards were. And so the NCAA has acknowledged the fact that they are looking into this, and they will, I guess, do something to change how coaches, would try to monitor this type of situation at the end of games, because it's not cheating. I think it's genius. If you can win and, you're not cheating, I think you do what you can. And we've seen the greats like Bill Belichick do this in the NFL. And hey, it's up to you guys to fix your problem because nobody said I can't do this. It was a
Strategy.
crazy, yeah, it was a crazy thing to think of, and in a very tense moment and spot in Eugene, Oregon. I mean, we had the number 2 team in the country coming into our house, and we're the number 3 team trying to get that number 2 spot, if not number 1 spot with Georgia in a close game. And we have an opportunity to do it right now. Let me think of a genius way to maybe fucking kill. And he does it. I shout out to Dan Lane, shout out to Oregon, Dylan Gabriel having a great day out there and proving that they were the better team on Saturday. And so that's Big Ten play in Oregon. We'd love to see it.
Yo, definitely a big shout out to Dylan Gabriel. I've had my eye on him as an athlete since he was down in South Florida or Central
Yeah.
Florida at Central Florida. He suffered that horrific injury, came back from it, had a great season, transferred, put up some numbers at Oklahoma, and now he is at Oregon with his highest completion percentage at
Yeah.
76.1. Just absolutely going crazy. Big shout out to Dylan Gabriel. Let's take it back to the pros. Oh man, like we just said earlier, Amari Cooper is out of Cleveland, and we've spoken about Cleveland extensively, and their
Hmm.
dilemmas and dramas and lack of a QB1, lack of performance from their QB1, who they still owe, if I'm not mistaken, about 90 mil to at this point. But hey, you're tied down by that contract. They trade away Amari Cooper today. Is this the end of the beginning for Cleveland, June? Should they at this point
The
keep
beginning of the
Deshaun?
end.
And yeah, end of the beginning. Nah, I'm gonna say end of the beginning because this shit just started and it's already over.
Oh man.
So
Oh man.
I'm gonna say the end of the beginning at this point. And do they just keep Deshaun Watson in house, do what they gotta do with his contract, and start, kind of blowing the team up piece by piece?
Well, them sticking with Deshaun Watson and Coach Stefanski coming to bat for his quarterback and saying that he still believes that Deshaun Watson gives them the best chance to win. At this point, I don't know, man. And Kevin Stefanski, whether he's doing this to retain his job or doing what he has to do to stay afloat, he doesn't want to go into. We've seen Cleveland lose 14 games in the season, time after time. We've seen that revolving door at quarterback. We've seen the revolving door at coach. We thought that we got past that with this Kevin Stefanski era. And mind you, let me just take this back a little bit and start off by saying this is all Cleveland's fault.
1,000%.
You drafted Baker Mayfield with the number 1 pick of the 2018 draft, and you gave up on him when it was time to give him his money. He's now putting up 51 points for the Bucks, about to win that division, has the league leading 15 NFL passing touchdowns, and he's a top 8 quarterback in the league right now.
1,000%.
Baker Mayfield.
The Bake Show.
By the way, $100 million. Not what did Deshaun Watson get?
240, if I'm not mistaken.
All guaranteed. I mean,
Fully,
come on.
100%. Give me the whole bag.
So I don't want to blame Kevin Stefanski. I think ownership maybe has more of a role in who they're paying and what they want. I know that Kevin Stefanski, I'm sure, has an opinion on, hey, should we keep this quarterback or should we go after someone else? And he might have, he might have signed off on the Baker Mayfield departure. I don't know. But if he's doing this, Stefanski, to keep his job and rolling with Deshaun Watson after they even trading away their best player on offense, he gonna die with him. He gonna die with him. And it sucks to see because he's a great coach. And I don't even think Cleveland necessarily fires him. I'm not saying that. But what is gonna be the change? Because you just asked me, right? Like, are they gonna rebuild? Are they going to start fire sale? Like, can we trade for Nick Chubb? Are we able to get a Denzel Ward from you guys? What about Myles Garrett? You guys want to let him go? What are we doing? I mean, there's so much talent on that team, and the guy running the show on the field sucks. If I'm Kevin Stefanski, I'm going to die with Jameis Winston. I'm going to die with Jameis Winston. I've already died with Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson is
W's.
dead. I mean, we're talking about Deshaun Watson putting up a passer rating of like 85.
They
We're
haven't
talking
had
about
a
him throwing
300-yard
for.
game this season.
I mean, he can't throw for 200 yards. Is it, what he? I wrote his numbers down. He had 16 of 23 for 168 yards. I wrote it down because it wasn't much to write. I mean, last week versus the Commanders, he couldn't even complete a pass. They couldn't convert on third down. And this is not wide receivers not trying hard. Oh, the offensive line is not blocking for it. It's Deshaun Watson sucks. And so for the fact that they do have a guy like Jameis Winston, backing him up, they did sign him probably because they saw what their quarterback situation was last year with Joe Flacco, DTR. They didn't want to get into we're not going to have a guy. I'd give him a chance, man. I'd give Jameis Winston a chance if I'm Kevin Stefanski, understanding that we need to win a football game. Who do the Browns play next? Do you mind giving me that information?
Absolutely.
Because at this point, if you're cool with just losing, you might as well start the rebuild. You might as well kill the dead cap that he has, own up the dead cap that Deshaun Watson has, and start to sell Garrett for picks, start to sell Chubb for whatever you can get for him at this point of his career, and then the Jerry Judys of the world and the Denzel Wards can go.
They got the Bengals at home where they are 6.5-point underdogs at home.
I mean, underdogs to the Bengals, and the Bengals just put up 10 points on Sunday Night Football, to the New York Giants. It's laughable. And so
hey,
I'm going to give it one more week. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, let me get specific for you because we're going to get into the game of the week, which was the Detroit routing Dallas. Unfortunately, Aiden Hutchinson suffers his his season-ending injury. If you're if you're Detroit, are you contacting Cleveland to talk about Garrett at this point?
Wow. Or Vegas for Max Crosby. Or
I thought about that. I thought that one was a stretch. I feel like Crosby was.
I think Myles Garrett is a stretch. I think Cleveland holds on to Myles Garrett as long as they possibly can. Like they'll let his career die in Cleveland before they give him up. In my opinion, I would. I mean, he's the best thing you got. He's the only thing you got. He's gonna be the only thing selling tickets there for a little bit. I would keep Myles Garrett. If Max Crosby is unrealistic, which I don't know if it's unrealistic or a stretch because, I mean, what are the Raiders doing right now? Obviously they want to build on that defense and continue to keep something there. But if you want to tank for picks like Shedeur Sanders, take a couple firsts for Max Crosby. You trade the second or third that you got for Vontae Adams, and you got your quarterback next year because you're not coming in here with Aiden Hutchinson again. Aiden O'Connell again, right? And so my thing is, maybe Hassan Reddick will be at a better price from the Jets.
Hey.
You got to make a phone call.
I've flown from the New York metro area to Detroit before. It's like an hour flight. It's not that bad. It's really quite quick and not the worst thing ever. I like the Hassan Reddick because he's at home like Joe Flacco was at home last season and he got picked up. And once again, I mentioned it last pod. Joe Flacco in Indianapolis for a 1 year, $4 million deal, while Jameis Winston is also in Cleveland for a 1 year, $4 million deal. Cleveland, you got to rearrange your management, your ownership, your everything based on that one decision to let go of Joe Flacco because of what? I don't know. Maybe he challenges Deshaun Watson a little too much with his performance from last year on a playoff run. Who knows? That's neither here nor there. I think we lost June. We'll work on getting him back. Oh, yes, we do. We got June in the green room. Let me get him back up here. In 3, 2, 1. There we go. We got your visual and your audio. Let's keep it in the NFL. And like I mentioned, game of the week was Detroit and Dallas. At least game of the week on paper before the game started. Once the game started, the shit practice is what we're talking about. Yeah. You talk about practice. It was an all-out Detroit rout, avenging that loss from last year. At 47-9, I believe. Yeah. I don't even have the correct score because it was absolutely outrageous. Yeah, 47-9. Wow, I do have the exact score where the Lions were doing trick plays up 32 points. I don't know what the point of kicking the dead horse while it was down already was, but they were just running it up. 20 points in the second half, 27 in the first half. It was a complete rout. I, a wise man once said, "How the turntables." That's the office for those that haven't seen it. How the turntables. 6 weeks ago, I said when Jerry pays, the boys will play. Well, Jerry paid,
Mm,
and they
yeah,
have
they ain't
been
playing
down.
since.
Yeah, they have been down by 15 points at the half in every single one of their last, I believe, 6 home games. By at least 15 points, they're down at the half. I, I mean, I guess the blatant question here, before I get to that, Jerry Jones snapping on reporters. I don't know if he thinks
Oh man.
he's mob tied up or something. I'm sure he's plugged in Dallas.
Yeah, I would say he probably is.
I'm sure he probably can make
he
those
got
reporters
a couple ties.
lose their
He just
jobs.
using his power in the wrong place.
We talked about, does Jerry care about winning anymore? What's going on in Dallas, June? And can this turn around this season? CeeDee Lamb
Well,
might leave you guys.
yeah. So a couple things. Jerry Jones going on the radio, which he always does because he is acting general manager for this, Cowboys team. He deals with roster construction, personnel, coaching changes. He is all in, very hands-on in his billionaire corporation he has there in
End
Dallas.
all be all in Dallas.
Yeah. And so, the reporter asks him about roster improvement or lack thereof this offseason. Jerry Jones didn't do anything all offseason, didn't even talk to Derrick Henry, waits till opening day to sign Dak Prescott, waits to sign CeeDee Lamb and have him disgruntled. All for that to come back and smack him dead in the mouth when, a couple guys go down. Deron Bland's hurt. Dexter Lawrence is hurt. Michael Parsons is hurt, who you also owe a big bag to soon enough.
Facts.
Shit has hit the fan in Dallas, and they can't get anything going offensively, and they cannot stop the run on defense to save their careers, or their season, I should say, not their careers. So Jerry Jones, real quick, I want to go back to that. He gets upset because he's emotional right now. He is power tripping. He is in Jerry's world. It's where he lives, and he doesn't realize that this is your issue that you brought to us. We did not ask you for this issue. You put this issue together, and now we're seeing the Cowboys struggle. We're seeing them not able to run the ball after losing Tony Pollard, not signing Derrick Henry. And the reporter's asking, hey, you didn't make any moves. What's going on? He's like, it's not your job to ask me what I did for the team. I'll find another one of you to do this job. Right? Now you're threatening the reporter.
I didn't know he owned the radio, the report.
Yeah, of course he owns a media station. I mean, this is Donald Trump here, right? Let's get it clear. And when you got this kind of money, you could say this type of stuff. You could say it. You could feel like you could say it. But as a man, and someone who claims they have integrity, and someone who claims that they, give out the respect that they want, you don't say certain things like that. You don't, power trip on a guy who is reporting on your team's lack of success because your team is unsuccessful and you're upset about it. Now he's going to be scared to ask you questions next week. Now before he thinks to ask you a question, he's going to compliment you, and he's going to be a yes man, as Jerry would like it. It's unfair, and I hope that someone within, I don't know who has more pull over there than Jerry Jones does, unfortunately, because he runs half the shit in Dallas. Somebody can say, hey, that's not how we doing things. He's got a job to do, and it's to report the right way, and we're going to do it that way. Hopefully they got somebody in the building for that. If not, we're going to get a bunch of scared or yes men in the Dallas media. And I don't think that they want to do that at all,
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you told me you was going to fire me and you Jerry Jones and I work in Dallas, talking about the Cowboys, I'm gonna ease up on the Cowboys. That's how it works. So I don't want to spend too much time talking about just the owner, Jerry Jones. We do got to talk about the football team and how bad it is. But at the same time, we can talk about it or we can just watch it. I mean, we're seeing it every week. We
Facts.
saw it with the Saints when they came into town. We saw it here with the Lions and them putting up. I mean, once you start throwing fucking fades to the left tackle and hooking ladders to your right tackle, at this point, I mean, you got I who was it? Damian Woody called this Cowboys team soft. Said
Mm.
they're soft. Said they're soft. And so and I'm sorry, Damian Woody or Swagoo. It was either Marcus Spears or Damian Woody. It was one of those. But he said they're soft. And that was a game yesterday that even though you're getting your ass whooped, you were supposed to fight. Whether you started a fist fight, whether you started some bullshit, like you got them embarrassing y'all. Embarrassed. This was Jerry Jones' birthday. They put up 47 points. Like I said, doing hook and ladders to Panay Sewell, lining up Taylor Decker as the X, as the wide receiver. Like, how disrespectful is it going to get before we start playing with some pride? And
Yeah.
they didn't play with any. And this is what we got. Is it over for the Cowboys? Statistically, it's not. They're in a division that's a winnable division every year. Um, it looks a little different this year, though, and it's hard to think that the Cowboys are going to be able to muster up another 8,
Mm.
7 to 9 wins from here on out. I don't know about that. So it does seem like the Cowboys season is maybe a little on the ropes.
Mm. Let's keep it in the same division. We just talked about the Browns. Well, they just lost to the Eagles. I would say barely lost to the Eagles, but a dub is a dub, a loss is a loss.
Yeah.
The Eagles did escape the Browns at home this weekend. 23-20, if I'm not mistaken, was the final score on that game. The Browns were at the goal line, a couple false starts, and they fucking shitted away a win that they had in their hands. But that's not the highlight of the game. The true story of the game is Nick Sirianni versus the fans yelling at Eagles. Yes, it was not in Cleveland. It was in Philadelphia,
Yep.
yelling at Eagles fans that were calling for his head and then being criticized after for bringing these kids on to the post game conference. So, he didn't face too much heat. Hey, I don't know. I've seen players bring their kids up on the podium. I ain't never seen a coach bring their kids up on the podium. June, are things in Philadelphia spookier than they appear 2 weeks from Halloween?
Hey man, yeah. Um, and this is a team with a winning record. I mean, man, Nick Sirianni. I try to root for him, bro. I try, and he makes it hard. He makes it entirely too hard. I think this guy has too much. Too much. I don't know. There's something too much about him. I think that he needs to understand he's the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. We don't need you to be more than that. And we certainly don't need you to be less than that. We
Yeah.
just need you to be the head coach of the fucking Eagles, right? We don't need you chirping with the fans. Ain't a win or a loss. By the way, it was a final score of 20-16.
Thank you.
Browns ain't scored. I just had to correct you because the Browns ain't scored 20 points all season. That's
My
all.
bad. My bad.
But yeah. Don't you think that 1-5 team has put up 20 points this season with Deshaun Watson? But back to Philly, only putting up 20 points with AJ Brown coming back in the lineup with a healthy Saquon Barkley. It's laughable.
Mm.
It's laughable. The fact that you have won a game on Sunday. I mean, we're fans, right? And when our football team wins or loses, I think that our mood is typically a bit altered for the next 40 hours, right? It's like you take the rest of if you play that one, 4 o'clock comes and you're going to be upset the rest of the day and a little bit into Monday because it's not victory Monday, it's loss Monday.
Yeah.
And when you win, it kind of pushes your day, and you're like, yo, like with me, I'm like, yo, Colts won today. I ain't gonna lie. Who plays later? Colts won today. What we doing? Colts won. As the head coach, you just won. You just won the second game of your season. The Eagles were, I mean, the third game of your season. I'm sorry. You just won the third game of your season to put your team over 500 coming out of the bye week in a game you needed to win. We didn't get to record this past week, EP, to preview these games, but we were going to talk about what team needed to come out here and what team had the most pressure to win on Sunday. And my answer was going to be the Philadelphia Eagles, coming off of a bye, playing the Browns, must-win game. They won, but you're still upset. There's something still bothering you. Your focus is over here, and the game is over here. This guy paid $500 to sit here. You got guys making millions of dollars like yourself to do your job, and what you just did, and you're yapping at the guy who probably got to go to work tomorrow. And it's no disrespect to that guy. That guy should be chirping and yelling all day.
No cap.
It's up to you to be the bigger man and the head coach of the Eagles to have the wherewithal to compose yourself as that. And so the Jalen Hurts news last season, Sirianni doing the whatever he did to the KC fans or whatever fans that was, then Jalen Hurts having to come and say, me and him love each other. We're great. So now you're yelling at fans. Nick Sirianni, it doesn't look good. And winning is going to be the only thing that you survive by. Winning is going to be the only cure for you to stay afloat. Thankfully, you got the Giants next week. It looks like it's going to be another win. We can't assume it. The Giants have been playing pretty good last few weeks. Defense is tightening up.
Yep.
Daniel Jones, though, is hard to put your money on him. But then you got the Bengals, Jaguars, and Cowboys, Commanders. That's a tough stretch right there. And so how far does Nick Sirianni last? Like I said, winning cures everything. That's the only way I'm going to call it. Because if he's doing this and wins, oh, boy, it's going to get ugly when they start losing. They put games together that they can't win. We're going to start looking at it. I mean, Damian Woody called him a clown. It's like, bro, you're a clown. And, I mean, we would never see, and I'm going to go off some greats. We would never see Coach Belichick. We would never see Coach Tony Dungy. We would never see Coach Lovie Smith. We would never see, even in my opinion, I never seen John Gruden yelling at the fans. And he's one of the most animated coaches we've ever seen. There's certain things that you don't do, certain things that are just line crossers. And I think Sirianni giving more of his attention to his fans at the end of the game. I mean, he apologized for this already. This is how you know.
Yeah, he had to.
Yeah, wrong, bro. So, I mean, I don't want to spend too much time on it. But I did want to jump into – did you have something else for me?
Yeah, I wanted to go from, I guess, hot seat to possible hot seat, right? And head down over to Jacksonville. I know that, me and you spoke earlier today. You don't necessarily think that it would be fair or necessary to. But in the last 9 years that the NFL has been hosting London games, right? In London, 3 coaches have been fired after losing London games. That would be Miami firing Philbin, the Raiders firing
Robert Saleh.
the Raiders firing their coach, and then last week Robert Saleh. Now, Jaguars did lose in London this past week to a rookie quarterback, nonetheless, in Caleb Williams. Yeah. Right. Follow me here. It may not have been, T-Law, receivers, and catching, but they are on a flight back. If they even left, they probably didn't leave London. Let's be real about it. So they're in London more than likely right now, and they have to play another rookie quarterback in Drake May now against the Patriots. If the Jaguars,
they're absolutely back in the States.
If the Jaguars lose in back-to-back weeks to rookie quarterbacks in London, how possible is it that this trend continues and we're seeing the last days of Peterson in Jacksonville?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point right there. You lose to the Patriots, rookie head coach, rookie quarterback in London, you go. I think you got to fire him.
Might as well just stay in London.
Yeah. They'd fall to what, 1-6 at that point?
Yes, sir, 1-6.
Yeah, and I say that because I wholeheartedly don't think Jacksonville's going to lose to the Patriots. Drake May did put up a nice little performance, threw a couple interceptions over there, but he had 3 touchdowns and he was letting it fly. Coach Herm Edwards said, why didn't he start week 1? I mean, he's 6 weeks behind now. We could have had, all this. You wanted to throw him in the fire at the end of the day, Drake May. You might as well have just put him in week 1. Back to Doug Peterson and the 1-6, 1-5 Jaguars. Yeah, at that point, if you lose a game to the Patriots, I think you have to look at what's next because this season's over. The season's over. You go to 1-6, lost to the Patriots in London. The season's over, and so you got to start thinking ahead. I do think though that there is a way to cure this. I think that the Jaguars can put a stretch of games together where they get a couple wins here. Let me take a look at their outlook here. They got New England in London, and then they got the
The
Packers,
Packers.
Eagles, Vikings,
Oh
Lions,
my God.
Texans.
Oh my
So,
goodness.
EP, this to me, Doug Peterson, if you could get a win here, you're going to save yourself, essentially. Because I don't think you're going to fire Doug Peterson after losing to the Packers, Jags, Vikings, Lions, Texans. Like, those are some of the best teams in the league. And, we're not really expecting them to win those games. But you can't lose this first one here versus New England. You're the London Jaguars, the UK's finest. You can't. So I
And that's
guess it
very
kind of
interesting. I just put that together. The Jaguar is a British car brand, and they keep scheduling the Jaguars in
that's
London.
funny.
That's very
That's
interesting.
funny. Hey, I do want to say this though. Jaden Daniels, that rookie of the year campaign is looking sweet, man. It's looking really good. He put up a good game versus the Ravens, 2 touchdowns,
Oh
over
yeah.
250 yards. But Caleb Williams, man, last week, Caleb Williams this week. He only had 6 incompletions, threw for over 220 yards, 4 touchdowns, only turned the ball over 1 time in a convincing win against the Jaguars. I mean, Caleb Williams looks like he's getting his feet under him. He's looking like the number 1 pick that he was supposed to be. And we can see the Bears going a little run here. And
I
Caleb
agree.
Williams start making that stamp for rookie of the year. I mean, they're sitting at 4-2 in the best division in football. Let's be real about that. They're in the best division in football right now. And I mean, don't look now, but the Bears are 4-2. They have a quarterback throwing for over 300 yards, over 3 touchdowns in multiple games. I mean, it's got to feel a little sweet because I didn't think they'd be at 4-2. And guess what? How about this, E? Let's watch the rookie of the year versus the rookie of the year. I mean, one of them's gonna win it.
Nah, for sure. 2
One
weeks.
of
Yes,
them's gonna
sir.
win it. In
I'm
2 weeks,
excited for that
when the
game.
Bears come off that bye week, we got Commanders in Washington versus the Bears. And we'll talk about that more, as time goes by. But that's Caleb Williams' next game right there. I'm locked in. That's the rookie of the
Absolutely.
year battle right there. And I'm gonna see who really outduels who in that game.
That's going to be it right there. I'm excited for that game as well. And Washington's at home after going on the road. On the road, it's a couple hours away, not even a couple hours, but on the road
Right.
and
That
losing
was like an hour away.
and losing to Baltimore. They're at home the next 2 weeks. They get the Panthers this coming weekend. This week should be like an extra bye for Washington essentially, and just
Yeah.
I'm not saying play down to the Panthers, but definitely they are definitely looking. They got that game circled on the 27th when the Bears come to town.
Hey, EP, we got a live looking bottom first, 2 outs already. Yankees up 1-0, runners on first and second. Looks like they got 2 hits here and an error. Judge hit the ball to shortstop. There was a fielding error
Let's
where
go.
Gleyber Torres scored, moved over Soto to second. So, like I said, there's 2 outs, bottom of the first, runners on first and second. Guardians is going to have a lot of trouble if they can't stop these Yankees early in the games. I mean, I remember when the Astros won the World Series in 2017, it felt like every game they were getting out to that 2-3 run lead in that first. And it was just too much of a hole for teams to dig out. So Cleveland's gonna want to get a stop here. I mean, one run, take it, go on, and hold it down. But if they get a base hit here, that might knock in two more runs. They go up 2-3 runs here. It's gonna be trouble for Cleveland.
Hey, I mean, when you're big in trash cans and you know what pitch is coming, winning the World Series is pretty
Not
easy.
too hard.
Pretty easy, pretty easy.
Not too hard.
I'm definitely about to tap into that. I'm also I have my eye on this Panthers and Blue Jackets game. I may or may not have taken the over 6.5.
I don't know if y'all seen that, man. I was
Yeah,
repping.
yeah,
I've been repping, man. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? Shout out to them boys, man. Cardiac Cats. We going for back to
yeah.
back.
I got my eye on
Hey,
that game. I took the over 6.5, so I need 7 goals in 2 periods right now because it is 0-0 after the first. I'm kind of starting to sweat a little bit
that's
here.
hilarious. Let's make some noise real quick for Russell Wilson. Looks like he's getting a start this week in Pittsburgh on Sunday Night
Oh.
Football. Justin Fields getting benched. I don't want to use that term because it sounds a little mean, but it is what it is.
It is what it is.
Quarterback play hasn't been horrible, but it hasn't been great. It hasn't been elite. And apparently it hasn't shown Mike Tomlin enough for him to believe that, hey, we got Devontae Adams coming to town with Aaron Rodgers. We're going to have to put up over 25 points this week to win this game. That's what I'm seeing from Tomlin. Russell Wilson is going to be in pads for a reason this week. And my quick thoughts are that I think Justin Fields has played really good football this season for the Steelers. He's done a lot of good things. There's a lot of play that I think he's left out on the field. There's some things that he is still slow to develop. And you would think that in year 4 as a quarterback, going through progressions and understanding offenses, he'd be a little more advanced at this point. And that's part of the reason why the Bears let him go and why he's now essentially getting benched. He went 14-24 for 140 yards. And Deshaun Watson went 16-23 for 168. And we were talking cash shit, saying how bad he was, saying how he's one of the worst quarterbacks in the league. And I'm not comparing Justin Fields to Deshaun Watson. I think they've played polar opposites this season. Justin Fields misses opportunities because he just doesn't see certain things. He misses a couple throws here and there. He also brings another, explosive, dynamic run ability to that team so that when the pocket does collapse, we can see those stats show up in the box score in the rushing department. So it's not, 145 yards and he's not doing anything else. He's putting his team in position, making big plays with his legs, things that Deshaun Watson isn't able to do anymore in his career that he once was, magically just can't. However, I just want to give a shout out to Russell Wilson getting the first start of the season in a new place in Pittsburgh at home, Sunday Night Football versus Aaron Rodgers. I mean, We've seen the Seattle, Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, dating back to the 2011s and 12s. We're going to get to see that one more time here. And also shout out to Baker Mayfield. Like I said, he's leading the league with 15 touchdowns. He threw for 325 yards and 4 touchdowns. Had 3 interceptions, but them boys put up 51 points on Spencer Rattler. Yes. And by the way, EP, I do want to say this, bro. I don't bet, and you know that. And I tried to bet, and I'll put a bet in every 3 months or so. I put in 2 parlays on Sunday for football. One of them wasn't the best judgment. I feel like, all right, I could have. It was the Colts to go over. They needed probably like another 5 points to hit the over in that game. It was a game total over. I had the Eagles plus 5.5, Browns plus 5.5 at first half. That hit. And then maybe 2 others. I think one other hit. Colts didn't go over. Whatever, blew the ticket. And then I had a ticket for Baker Mayfield to throw over 250 yards. Alvin Kamara, anytime touchdown. Another total that all 3 of them hit. And the only one that didn't hit was my anytime touchdown for Chris Olave, who got a concussion on the first possession of the game and never had a chance.
Nasty work.
I was a little upset. I shall not be betting probably for the rest of the NFL season. So we'll do away with that. But yeah, man, I'm all gamed out on my end. I'm ready to watch the rest of this Yankees game tonight. We got a couple I don't know what division it is, but we got some college football going tonight. I'll be here.
Heard that, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, as we cross over this hour 15 mark. This has been your Tuesday evening All Things Sports Talk
Shout out
Show.
to the New York Liberty.
Yeah,
Go.
on the On Things Sports Network. If you tapped in live, thank you so much. If you tuned in on wherever podcasts are streamed.